This is the Pegasus Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Cadet 111 Squadron in Kitsilano. 100 cadets, 12 to 19 years old, are on parade. They are commanded by 12 cadet officers and 5 adult officers. Some of the cadets have been here for 5 years. This is the 50th anniversary parade of Canada's first Air Cadet Squadron.
I was expecting the Air Cadets to be difficult, but it's not that difficult actually. I did expect to fly. There was quite a bit of flying. Other than that, there wasn't a lot that I expected. I've been flying once. We took off from the Pitted Meadows Airport, so I got to fly out to Chilliwack, and they let you fly the plane, but you're not allowed to take off or land because it's pretty dangerous. They do actually let you fly.
Flying is what distinguishes Air Cadets from the other cadet organizations. Every Air Cadet receives familiarization flights in a glider and a powered aircraft. Each year, the Canadian Forces award flying scholarships to over 500 Air Cadets. More than 10,000 pilots have learned to fly through Air Cadets.
This summer, I'm going to Princeton for the glider pilot training course. All through the school year, up to about the end of January, I came down to the armories here on Wednesday nights, and we did various things such as meteorology and theory of flight and all the things covered in ground school. When I go to the actual course this summer, I believe it's the first 3 weeks are a review of ground school, and then the rest is just flying hours actually in the gliding, getting the correct amount of hours to get a license. The actual course is 6 weeks long. If I do well enough and I become top cadet in this region, then I'm sent to Elmira, New York with all the other top cadets, and we compete there.
250 cadets learned to fly in Vancouver in 1939, the year the Royal Canadian Air Force organized 111 Squadron 8 months before the outbreak of the Second World War. Those 250 cadets were chosen from 1,100 applicants. In May of 1939, they paraded for King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. The cadets were commanded by Flight Commander Nick Carter, a First World War triplane pilot who personally shot down 21 German planes. Nick Carter would be continuously involved with Canada's Air Cadets for 47 years, until his death in 1986 at the age of 92.
From when he was a little boy in the prairies in his home ranch, he used to lie on the hill, lie in the ground and look up at the foothills and wonder what was above them. And he thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to fly? That's when he got the interest when he was a young boy. In his logbook, which is all verified when he shot down, he says 21, but whether that just immaterial as far as I'm concerned. He did his stuff and he came out alive, and that was the main thing. He was his head prefect of his class, of his school, you see, one of the head prefects. Here they called him up and they presented him with this medallion which said, for honor, courtesy, and perseverance. And to me, he had those 3 little things all through his life. And that's what made him a good citizen. The Stanley Park business was something. Those kids were all so keen. That's what I remember most. After it became the Air Cadet League, under their sponsors, that was in 41 or 2 or something. Well, then they had all kinds of opportunities. They only were a little primitive thing in the early days, but then anything to do with the air had progressed so much, so they went along with in the stream. They had all these opportunities, and they had leadership courses and what were the other ones? Survival. And then they had international exchange visits. That was something.
We run under a training program that's been set up and fine-tuned by the Department of National Defense and the Air Cadet League of Canada. The program that we teach here is pretty much identical to what every other squadron in Canada does. Pegasus Squadron moved to Kitsilano in the early 60s after the horse barn in Stanley Park burned to the ground.
Here we have the Enfield No. 7. It's a cadet, basic cadet training rifle. It was manufactured in 1949, and it again is a single-shot, bolt-action 22 rifle. You look through the center rear sight and line it up with the front post. Has the safety on this side. Trigger guard, trigger. Magazine releases this bar here. The breech area. Front sight is here. Ready to the left. Ready to the left, sir. Ready to the right. Ready to the right, sir. Firing lines now ready. Load commence firing. This is the Enschild's target rifle. It's bolt action, 22 caliber. It's a fairly sophisticated rifle. It has adjustable sights, front and rear. It's used by the cadets, the senior cadets for target shooting. Single shot after we load each round. We try and keep it as safe as possible.
The Pegasus Squadron also has a military band. Once a week, the players practice.
Currently, we have an ex-cadet in charge of the band. Her name is Officer Cadet Carolyn Cohen. She took over the band in December this year, December 1988, and has run with it since then. And she was a member of the cadet band when she was a cadet. She aged out at 19, and we brought her into the system because she's a very dedicated officer, and she had a lot to offer the other cadets in the system. And, so she decided to continue on doing for other cadets what people had done for her over the years.
Delamont was in charge of the band, and he was great. You know, Delamont and his band, the Kitsilano Boys Band. Well, he got into his uniform and went down and helped too.
Pegasus Squadron was the first in BC to accept girls as cadets. It was in 1975 that Parliament approved official participation by girls in Air Cadet programs, although girls had participated unofficially since 1956. Today, the 111 Squadron is 1/3 girls.
I've made friends for life. I mean, I've made friends that I'm not going to lose. My favorite part is probably the flying. I also like the survival exercises that we go on. The safety level has to be very high because they're dealing with a large group of people in an area that's not completely safe. They can't control all of the factors, so they have to watch everybody, and for that reason it's very strict. Summer camp I went to was in Cold Lake. They have them all around BC, I mean in Vernon, on the island, Pat Bay. They have them across. There's people going to Quebec this summer. Later in life, I expect our cadets will help me in presenting myself. I'm a lot better at communicating to a group of people now. Presenting myself is the main thing. A lot of leadership if I'm ever in situations such as, well, a survival situation, I will know better what to do. I can take better control of a situation when I'm unsure of myself.
My name is Warrant Officer Moore, and I'm the Cadet Squadron Warrant Officer for 111 Pegasus Squadron. Well, I went to mostly Alberta for my courses. I attended the basic JLC and senior leaders course in Alberta, and I went for a national scuba diving course just off the coast of Vancouver Island. Cadets is a very worthwhile program, and I think that most kids that join Air Cadets don't fully appreciate cadets and leave too soon. I think that if they stayed in cadets longer and experienced it a bit more, they'd understand it, and I think they'd benefit a lot more if they just stayed.
It takes a special kind of person in that to come down here and put in their hours on Monday nights and come down on Wednesday nights and on the weekends and out in the field activities. We have 5 pilots, a helicopter pilot, we have ham radio operators, computer instructors, first aid attendants, people that are very good at what they do and are volunteering their times and passing these skills along to the young people. On top of what the Air Cadet League of Canada provides, we are going out and getting our cadets pilot's licenses. And we managed to do 2 additional ones to what the cadet system provided this year. And that's an expenditure of about $8,000, about $4,000 to get a license. And we're trying to keep air cadets in the air. And so I look forward to continuing that program. Perhaps if things work out, we'll buy an airplane and be able to reduce our per hour cost to fly cadets around, and in that way be able to stretch our flying budget to accommodate more hours for cadets that want to get up in the air.
I used to call him the flying cowboy because that's what they called him in Calgary, because he rode in the first Calgary Stampede, you know. 1912, he was a herd rider. That means he'd have to go along beside the man that was on the bucking bronco and pick him up when...
That would adapt him well for those planes, all right.
Yeah, he said anybody who could ride a horse could fly well, too.
Gliding, sometimes I actually prefer it because I enjoy flying kites, and it's almost as if you're actually in the kite when you're flying it. And you're up there, and the cockpit comes right around you, and you can see everything, and all you can hear is the wind and the radio, and it's quite exhilarating.
I have always wanted to fly ever since I was a little girl. My family, my aunts and my uncles, who I'm originally from Toronto, and they live in Toronto, were air cadets when they were growing up, and they both got their licenses, their power and glider licenses through the Air Cadet Squadron.
When I was a cadet, and somebody put a lot of time in when I was a young man, and I felt it was only fair that when I had an opportunity to do so, that I come back and do it for some other young people.
A lot of people feel that Air Cadets is a part of the military, and if you join, either you can't go out, or if you join, you're supporting war, and that's not true. There's a lot of parts of the Air Cadet League that a lot of people miss. For me, it's been a lot of fun. I've made, as I say, I've made a lot of friends, and I've met a lot of people I otherwise wouldn't have met, and I've learned a lot of stuff I would not have learned about survival. And you get to do a lot of interesting things that you wouldn't otherwise get to do.
Flying and the future of flying seem to be his passion all through life.
I believe that there will be cadets from 111 that will go into outer space. We look back at the cadets that were members of 111 50 years ago, and the accomplishments and contributions to society that those people did over their 50 years, and it's amazing. We have several that won medals, Distinguished Flying Crosses from 111, and then we have others that have become major generals in the Canadian Armed Forces. We've had politicians, people that have gone on to make a substantial contribution to our society, and I think that the young people that I'm working with today are no different. As a matter of fact, they're cut from the same cloth. They're what I consider to be some of the finest young Canadians around, and these people will no doubt be the leaders of tomorrow, and 50 years from now, if I'm still around and I come to the 50th, I suspect that some of my cadets will be there and be able to tell some stories of when they were cadets 50 years ago.
To learn, to serve, to advance. The motto of the Royal Canadian Air Cadets. Life is full of change between the ages of 12 and 19. The Pegasus Squadron has changed as well in its 50 years of existence, but some things remain the same.
I am exceptionally pleased to know that in the audience you have some of the cadets who were here 50 years ago, who were in your shoes. And I hope that some of you will be back in 2039 as grandparents and come to your 100th anniversary in this particular squadron.
Cadets then and now are a disciplined group, And that discipline comes from the cadets themselves because they want it. From the beginning, Air Cadets has been the most technical of the cadet disciplines. In a technical age, scientific knowledge is a good background for later life, but the most lasting contribution of Air Cadets is the socialization it provides, character and citizenship. Cadets serve their community. Service is important, but no one ever forgets that being a cadet should be fun, either in the air or on the playing field or in the band or at camp. The Pegasus Squadron has been active for 50 years. This year, 111 Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Cadets, the Pegasus Squadron, honors the past, celebrates the present, and looks forward to the future with its 50th annual inspection.